Thank you very much, Cassidy. Great to be with you all today. Super happy to be joined by C.J. Anderson, running back for the Detroit Lions. And personally, as somebody who grew up as a Denver Bronco fan, watching C.J. help them win the Super Bowl a few years ago and score the clinching touchdown in that game, this is a bit of a thrill for me. So thank you. I will say also, he's actually not the biggest star in his family. His 5-month-old daughter, Kaylani, is that the name? Is out there somewhere, I think. And if you get a chance to see her, you'll probably be more impressed with her than with us up here. But anyway, we want to talk about this is a guy who has done an awful lot on the football field, but you're going to find out how much he's done off it. Been really just a great boost to youth sports in the Bay Area in California, and put an incredible amount of energy into that. But first of all, I just want to thank you for your time, CJ, because you're in the NFL season. You're undefeated with the Lions so far.
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah, clap up for that. Hard to win in the league, trust me.
Yeah. Tuesdays are the day off, and so to spend part of it here is very good for you. So tell me about a Tuesday day off and how your body feels as a running back at this point.
Body's okay. It's week 2, so it's kind of early. Usually, I go in the facility early morning, do different recovery things such as like hot tub, cold tubs, cryotherapy, flow tanks, chiropractors. And then, obviously, foundation calls come in on Tuesday. With a bunch of our different partners, different tech companies that we have partnerships with, like Google and DocuSign, et cetera. So talk to them about future plans for our kids and our youth. And then tonight, somewhere around 7 o'clock, I'll be getting ready for the Philadelphia Eagles this weekend. So
very good. Yeah.
So it's a long Tuesday. It's never really a day off.
Yeah, even the days off aren't days off.
There's no running around. That's it. No sweating.
Well, obviously this is a lot centered around youth sports here, this discussion. And what was your journey through youth sports like growing up in Vallejo, California?
So I grew up inner city kid. Me, 2 brothers, just my mom and my grandma. Never knew my father. And youth sports for us was not only a way out, but it was just a way to stay out of trouble, stay off the streets. My uncle, who lived in our house, sold drugs, then eventually did drugs. I had 4 different drug raids through my house growing up because of my uncle. At one point, I think me and my brother, we were the youngest, but at one point everybody was arrested on the curb, not telling on my uncle, but we all knew what my uncle did. I do remember when the cops tried to get me and my little brother to talk and spill on some things that my uncle was doing in the house, but our community about the police and things was what was told to me when I was young. It's completely different when I tell kids now, obviously. So, growing up, youth sports was a way out. I had some good coaches who were father figures who are still I'm tight and close with today. Talk to them before every start of the season. Talk to them throughout the season. Still check on them because they're still coaching, whether it's youth or high school. Still talk to them too. So, I enjoyed my time with all 3 sports: football, basketball, baseball.
Sure. With the amount of, I guess, kind of chaos that was around you, how did you manage to avoid it and make your way through?
I think I had a great foundation. It takes a village. Something I'm trying to do with my daughter is it takes a village to raise kids in a certain environment and let them know that they're bigger and better than that environment. I think I had a strong foundation that started off with my mom and my grandma. I seen my mom and my grandma work hard for everything that they wanted to get in life. And then my mom passed that down to me and my brothers. And from there, it was, the Coach Welch's or the Marcellus Holmes, the Coach Brooks, the Coach Turners, who made sure I stayed on track. Now, obviously, we all were kids at one point. We all veered off just a little bit, but I never veered off enough where, it took me down a different path like some friends I have.
Sure. How old were you? In what ways did they start taking an interest in you and at what age, your coaches?
Well, Coach Welch was my first coach that I can fully remember. I was about 7, playing junior Pee Wee football for the Vallejo Raiders at the time. I was trying to play receiver because I was a big fan of Tim Brown. And then he said, you know what, we're going to move you back to running back. And that's kind of how that worked. And then it was things like sleepovers with Keith Welch, who actually does good work for our foundation, but his son, but going to his house for sleepovers, staying in his house day before games, He also had a mom and a dad in the house, so seeing that interaction, seeing the love from there, and then getting the love from Coach Welch, and then moved down to Coach Holmes, which is the same way he was on that staff too, but eventually becoming my high school coach also. Coach Holmes and his son, Tavier Holmes, me and him was real tight. So it was just, and two parents in that household too. I think it was kind of seeing those things, getting the love from those father figures, checking on me, checking on my grades, making sure everything is right. Not just coaching me on football, but taking things off the field and then impacting me a lot more.
Sure. Were you at all resentful or sad that you didn't have that male parent in the home?
Nah, when I reflect back on it, it never really bothered us. One thing I can pride my mom on, she never really talked bad about my dad. She never really said anything about my dad. The only thing she said was, if he doesn't want to be here, then, we got to move on. The world still spins. That was kind of her motto. The world still spins. So that's kind of how we took it. We were a tight-knit family, even with my uncle doing some of the crazy things that he was doing, the selling the drugs and the different cops knocking on our door and, or hiding people in our house away from cops, different things that I've seen growing up. We were still tight and close to him, for some, I guess you could say some odd reason. Now, I do want to say this and clear this up. My uncle has been out the game and clean for, I think this is 12 years now. So, it's live, so we got to clap it up for my uncle. My uncle is completely 360 and changed his life around and, in our lives, in my nieces and nephew, obviously in my daughter's life. But, I just think not having that dad made us stronger in different areas as a family.
Sure. So your mother must have been an extraordinary person, huh?
Yeah, her and my grandma, they're the backbone.
Yeah.
We wouldn't know what to do without them.
Absolutely. So you dove into sports. Did you play everything when you were younger? Or?
So I started off with football. It was fun. Then I got into basketball when I was about 10 or 11. I wish I would have gotten that to a little earlier, seeing the contracts going on today. And then I got into baseball at the same time. And then being an inner city kid and my mom not having enough, now it's my older brother's 9 years older than me, so he was done with sports. My little brother's 3 years younger than me, so it's me and him at the same time. My mom couldn't pay for all of us to play all three sports at the same time, so baseball ended up dropping about the time I was 12, 13, to just play football and basketball. Same with my little brother, we just stick to play football and basketball, and then that went through high school and obviously football, college, and now in the league. So.
Right. Worked in some track too, right, in high school?
Yeah, I did a little track in high school. I did a little track when I was younger too.
Yeah, okay.
This is funny to say this. I didn't like running.
Is that right?
Yeah.
A running back who doesn't like running. How's that possible?
It was no purpose. I was.
Nobody was chasing you, right?
I guess that was the thing, or no one was side to side when I was running next to him. I was trying to figure out why I'm always in front. When I was younger, so I was fast, and that's what it was. So that sport wasn't competitive to me. So
Really?
I got out of that.
Correct me, I think state champion at least in a sprint or two. I think I saw.
Not me.
Okay.
Oh no.
Okay. All right. Never mind. That's okay. So, how did you balance multiple sports and going to school and everything else? The home life and everything. How'd you manage it all?
I think one, so it was a Boys and Girls Club growing up in Vallejo, California. It was open for 52 years. My mentor, Fillmore Graham, who passed away of Alzheimer's. Fillmore when I got to the club, Fillmore used to take my football away. I was one of those kids who walked around with the football every day. Fillmore was one of those guys who take my football away and say, do a book report. I remember that when I was 8. So, gave me a simple, easy book. It wasn't Cat in the Hat, but I'm just going to say Cat in the Hat. But it just think of somewhere on that line. It's a real simple book. Read the book, gave it back to him, got my football back. Got a little older, now I'm in middle school, take my football again, tell me to do a book report. I do the book report now, but when I get the report back, because I didn't get no football back, so I was trying to figure out why I didn't get my football. I get the report back, there's grammatical errors and, synthesis fragments and, different errors on that report that I didn't understand. And I think that was one way to get my mind stimulated for academics. That was kind of how I balanced that. Home life was home. We couldn't change that.
Yeah.
We had to be in the house before the street lights was on. Obviously, it was, violence, gang violence and drugs and things like that. We couldn't change that. But Fillmore Graham let me know that I can change that perspective. So, it's kind of like with my foundation, when I do with my kids today. Our kids are going through some of the same situations that I grew, if not, far crazier than what I grew up in. And I think having that village and having that mentor, Mr. Graham was that guy for me, and that's what I'm trying to do for my kids.
Yeah, yeah. And now, I'm sure you grew up watching professional football, college football, perhaps, in maybe, the name of the foundation, Dreams Never Die, and you had your own dreams. Did you dream of what football or sports could do for you?
Yeah. My mom always said, if you dream big, go big. If you get big, you know how to handle it because you dreamed it when you were younger. I see a lot of people with success that doesn't, I ain't gonna say misuse it, but doesn't handle it the correct way.
Right.
Maybe, and part of that, I just take back that teaching what my mom gave me. Now, obviously, this is my mom perspective, but I take that teaching that my mom gave me that maybe they wasn't ready to handle success because they didn't think they were going to be successful when they were young. That's something that my mom instilled in me and my brothers when we were younger. And taking that, taking that model and taking that success definitely helped me today.
There you go. And then you start, you're a successful athlete and you're starting to be recruited. What was that process like in choosing a college and that sort of thing for you?
So the recruitment process was fun, to be honest.
Yeah.
I did a lot of traveling, a lot of trips. It was one trip particular when I went down to Miami. Too much fun. And
the first person to say that.
And that was kind of the knock on the head from that. And then talking to old coaches like Coach Holmes, like Coach T, who's my high school coach, Jeff Turner, and then also talking to Fillmore Graham. They were asking me about the trip, and I was giving them so many details about the fun part.
Yeah.
No details about the school and the academics, the football program, and things of that nature. And that's when my mentor said, you know what, maybe being too far from home is not good for you. And I kind of took that, personally, like, I'm a grown man, I can handle it. One of those prideful issues that some of us men have. And but he actually was right. He actually was totally correct. He was right. And when I made the decision to go to UC Berkeley, that really changed over everything, and that kind of what started the foundation and so on.
Gotcha. Yeah, and obviously, yes, and the career went from there. Great career at Cal Berkeley with the Golden Bears, and then on into the NFL. But all the while, you have been passionately invested in your foundation and in youth sports. Tell us, if you can, overview of what your foundation does.
So just briefly, Dreams Never Die. We provide inner city youth with resources outside of athletics and outside of athletics and entertainment. Which means we don't drop youth sports. I'm gonna explain a whole lot about the foundation on the sports side here in a minute, but the reason why we wanted to start that way, because when you look at my city, it's myself, it's Jeff Gordon, it's CC Sabathia, it's E40, it's Mac Dre. It's a lot of rappers, even her, the artist her, Gabby Williams. It's a lot of artists in the R&B or rap entertainment, or it's a lot of athletes, whether that's NASCAR or baseball or football. There's a lot of athletes who are successful. Kids think because I won a Super Bowl ring, that makes me successful. Kids think because myself and CC Sabathia, you can see our contracts publicly, that makes us successful. Same with E40, and Gabby, and that's not true. So what we wanted to start it with, the academics and tech side. So obviously being in Vallejo, California, we're not too far from San Francisco. The first company that reached out to us was DocuSign that wanted to help us, which was great. I'm pretty sure everybody knows DocuSign and when they hit IPO in April and all those good things. But after that, it just trickled down. I went from Harvard, went from Google, then from Google, Twitch, YouTube, Microsoft. If I can pull out my phone, I can read you about 25, 35 different partnerships. But everybody in Silicon Valley that you can possibly think of on the tech world, on the Facebook, Apple, on the biggest side, we have a personal partnership with. And then as far as universities, there's Harvard, there's MIT, there's UC Berkeley, San Francisco State, Sonoma State, UC Santa Cruz, UC Riverside, Santa Barbara, and so on, that we have partnerships with to get our kids a different opportunity and different looks. We have 2 robotic companies that we're working with to give them opportunities. So, once we got them on board, then we put programs together, which was great. And we just had our summer programs this past summer. It was 124 kids I was supposed to sign up. 100 signed up. Really successful. Took tech trips to Google. Took Exploratorium, DocuSign, which was pretty cool, and LinkedIn. All our kids got to see a different side, different ways to be successful, talking to different CEOs and different execs, different founders. And then once we got those kids grasped, now in 2020, we're starting our youth sports. So we'll start with AAU boys and girls basketball coming in 2020 in the spring. Then we'll go high school football 7-on-7 in the spring. And then CC Sabathia retires this year. So in 2021, we'll do baseball, softball. Then we'll add the middle school sports. And then every year, we'll add a sport and then add the middle school sports right under it. So the 7 sports that we're going to start with in the next 7 to 8 years or so will be football, basketball, baseball, softball, volleyball, soccer, and golf. So we understand, and back in my community where I'm from, there's not a lot of youth sports going on. And youth are getting to different things. And, you only know what you know. So our kids didn't know about San Francisco, California, that was up the highway to change their mind and their perspective academically or with technology. All they know is sports and entertainment. So if they don't hit sports and entertainment, then a lot of them revert back to the streets. They got an uncle like I did, or they have a cousin or a brother who are influencing them to do different things in their house that's not the right way. So first we just tried to get them in a different way. And then now when we bring the sports in coming up in 2020, hopefully we can get a lot of kids and have a lot of fun.
It's interesting. So you're to a degree doing what your mentor did. You're taking the ball away from it first, saying we're going to do academics here first. And what's the reception been? I mean, people enthusiastic?
Oh, they're excited. They're super excited. I mean, the whole ultimate goal is, which we're in a negotiations conversation with this group called the Nimitz Group, building a 60,000 square foot facility right on Mare Island in my hometown. We can bring all these resources into one big facility. We're talking multiple baseball fields, multiple soccer and football fields mixed in, multiple baseball and softball fields mixed in, talking about basketball courts, and then we're talking about our academic side as far as classrooms, robotic programs, tech programs, that we're getting from DocuSign, Google, gaming programs that we're getting from Twitch and Ubisoft. So we're taking this 60,000 square foot facility and building it, and then the rehabilitation center, with cryotherapy and infrared saunas, and trying to teach, young athletes how to take care of your body at a young age. So, because I didn't know nothing about those things until I got to UC Berkeley in my 20s. If we can teach these kids early, at a very young age, our programs run from 7 to 17. So if we can teach these kids at 7 years old, hopefully that's something they can adapt and grab, and don't hit the ball so late like I did when I got older.
Sure. And so, yes, as you're diving in here into youth sports, what do you see as the state of youth sports that you've experienced?
In our community, I only can speak for us. It's tough, for everyone. Like, I know the Snoop League is down in the Bay Area, and they're doing really successful. In our community, like I said, it's lacking. So, you grab somebody with a platform like myself, who can give these kids a voice and give these kids a different outlook, whether that's, the kid who want to be a robot, want to be the next, CEO like Bill Gates, or the kid who wants to be the next Steph Curry. You want to find a balance for both of them. When it comes to youth sports, for us in our community, it's just getting the kids, fundamentally sound, teaching them the right way, giving them some of the highest coaches, no disrespect to my coaches, like the Marcellus Holmes and the Jeff Turners, and really great coaches, but we're trying to get them, a lot of these kids have dreams of playing at the next level, so let's give them next level coaching, like myself on football, or CC Sabathia, or some of the Golden State Warriors like Draymond Green and Steph Curry, who's helping me, Andre Iguodala, who's helping me with the basketball side. So, you take those, or you take like a girl named Kendall Core who played Division I softball, who will be running my softball program. You take those things so you can give those kids and pass them down and let them know that, these people came from an environment just like you did, no matter what part of the state that was in, or what part of the world that was in. I'm sorry. Yep. But these kids came in, these adults are teaching these kids with, who have the similar background, similar stories, who can relate to them, and then hopefully, we can push them to whatever their dreams may be.
Right. And you've even invested your time to help coach youth league teams, have you not, at this
point?
Yeah.
So I do 7-on-7 down in Texas with the organization, nonprofit called All In. Had a lot of fun with them for 2 years. I'm leaving them this year because I'm starting my own 7-on-7 obviously next year. So I had to learn to understand understand the organization and learn about 7-on-7 and different tournaments. Obviously, like Cam Newton helped me a lot because he has his big 7-on-7. Mike Evans is another one from the Buccaneers. So I learned from a lot of guys around the league too. And then when I actually got in it, it was pretty fun.
Gotcha. Then you, I guess, at least one little bit heated altercation one of the games there. What did that maybe lesson or tell you about dealing with youth sports situations like that?
I think, the altercation I had with the ref, the shouting match back and forth, one, I think is letting the kids know, like, I got their back no matter what.
Yeah.
Right, wrong, or indifferent. I got their back no matter what. Then I'll turn them around and tell them if they're wrong or right, during that moment. But I think at the time, it was letting the kids know, like, it needs to be fair. Just because we're playing in a certain community or we're playing a certain style of kids or, I don't like to make it a race thing, but you're playing a privileged community or a privileged kids doesn't mean that, when they do something wrong and the ref don't say nothing, we're just supposed to sit back and take it. Right. So it was kind of one of those situations that happened. Mm-hmm. Thank God it cleared up, obviously. Yeah. I got the coach the next day. It was fun. We took third in that tournament. Right. But it was just letting the kids know, like, just because where you come from, just because someone might label you or stereotype, as soon as you walk through the door, doesn't mean that's you. So, understand that. Of course, you got to play the game a certain way, but understand that and, protect yourself.
Right. Okay. Then do you think there's, kind of almost a circular benefit? I mean, you did not grow up easy, but you got what you needed out of your upbringing, emotionally, educationally, and financially now. Do you think that maybe that upbringing actually helped make you want to get back into the community?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at my mentor, Fillmore Graham, who obviously I miss dearly. Excuse me, I'm getting emotional. But obviously who I miss dearly. I look at what he did, jumping into different neighborhoods in my community that didn't get along, bringing me and a couple other friends from different neighborhoods together, whether my neighborhood didn't like his neighborhood for whatever reason that our elders back in the day had some problems with each other. Him grabbing us and putting us together, I think that was special. Mm-hmm. And, when he passed away and the Boys and Girls Club died, I went back home. I went back by the Boys and Girls Club, and before the Boys and Girls Club was officially closed, I just seen the lack of participation and the lack of kids that were in there. And I just know how much that Boys and Girls Club impacted me and my brother's life and so many other friends that I have. We kind of looked at each other and said, we can do the same thing. We have the platform. Obviously, we can get to the resources. We needed a lot of help on the way. We got a great team. So I think those are the things that made me see and grasp. And then from there it was like, okay, now how do we do it? So we got to take the sports completely out of it first to let these kids know that education is important. Obviously, you will not, I won't be in a position today if I didn't go to UC Berkeley and had a 3.8, or if I didn't, go to Laney College with a 3.8, or if I didn't, even at high school when I had a 2.2. Just those things. I had to be eligible to stay on the field and things of that nature. And then from there, we added the youth. We added some of the programs that were fun. Art, gaming, robotics, that made a lot of kids who play sports didn't know they had some of those hidden talents. And now when you bring the sports to them, it's you're rolling out the red carpet.
Yeah, it's great. And then I guess just in closing, the theme here, obviously, don't retire, kid.
Yeah.
We want kids to stay involved in youth sports. What would you say to young people out there about why being in youth sports was such an important thing?
Well, youth sports is important for a lot of things. I mean, just, to never give up. Mm-hmm. That's one thing it taught me, teamwork, brotherhood or sisterhood, whatever sport that may be. That's another thing. You seem to talk to your coaches more than you talk to your parents. And what I try to tell the adults in youth sports, because it's us as adults who make the youth sports fun. It's us as adults who make the youth want to come back, make the parents want to bring them back. It's us as coaches to continue to talk to the parents and have a rapport with them. Don't look at it as a parent like you're babysitting. You drop your kids off and then you leave and then you come back for 2 hours and your kids run around. Like, actually get involved, because, when they start 7, 8, 9, when we get them when they're young, You know, we got that rapport with the parents, and we're grooming them, we're teaching them. But then when we get them around middle school and high school, as they get older and as they take their sports a lot more serious, you know, then college coaches and different things start coming around, different opportunities start to come up. And now that's when us as coaches have to be a lot more involved with the parents in that realm to let them know that their kid has an opportunity to go to any school at any level, you know, to play their respective sport and have a great education behind it.
Okay, well said. And got to say, C.J. Anderson, a great attribute to the National Football League and all the communities he is a part of. So, Jim, thank you for your time.
Thank you.